Mega powers, yeah!
Hello, wrestling fans. It's your boy Scanduce, the hip hop original, alongside
Sire, it's your boy.
your boy Sire. Yeah, man. Shout out to Magic J. He couldn't be here today. This is episode number 29 of the Mega Powers podcast, and we're joined by an incredible artist, a talent that is just doing amazing things in the world of music and pro wrestling at the moment, who has a fantastic single that's literally just come out, and we're going to get into all of that. But without before we get there, let's welcome the man himself, Zaheer. How you doing, brother? Welcome to the Mega Powers podcast.
What's going on, man? Like Mega Powers, appreciate being here.
Yeah, bro. We have a ritual when we kick these things off, man. You got to warm up the hand, and we're gonna come in with the Mega Powers handshake just to get it popping, bro. Go straight through the screen with it. There we go, bro.
I didn't wash my hands, but it's all right.
So yeah, so basically the first question we always ask, bro, is like, where did the passion for pro wrestling come from, man? Where did it start for you?
I was 8 years old, I think. Sky, when Sky One or Sky Sports used to do those like 1 hour magazine shows back in the day. I think we were all broke back in the day, let's be real. So like it was taped from a friend's house, and then we used to get to watch it from there. So that was kind of like my fandom, which started with like the lead up to WrestleMania 12, it would have been. So Shawn Michaels was my guy. Something's never changed. WrestleMania 12 would have been the first one that I watched with Brett and Shawn. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I've ever seen that match since. But that's kind of when I started getting into wrestling. Everyone was watching like the Marvel stuff and the Avengers and Master of the Universe, and then I like saw Ultimate Warrior, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to watch.
Yeah. Wow.
And I never grew out of it. Never grew out of it.
Man, so you never had a period where you dipped out, you just stayed consistent throughout.
Pretty much. I mean, there was a few years that wasn't great, but to be honest, like I've always kept up to date. So whether it's just kind of reading up about what's going on, that's something that kind of never leaves you. Whether you kind of watch it week in, week out, it's sort of different. But like, obviously the big pay-per-views has always been standard. I think it's probably like, 10, 12 years ago, I got proper back into it, like fully back into it.
Wow. I
But it never leaves you, man. It's like an addiction. It never leaves you, man.
I will say something. It did leave me.
Yeah.
I left in 2004, and I never looked back. And I came back in 2014. I guess when all the superstars that I love left, like Rock, Stone Cold, all of them people just sort of moved on.
Yeah.
I did actually not look back, and then my brother sat me down. So I'm one of the few.
Right. So you said, so your wrestler at the start was Shawn Michaels. Mania 12 was your first Mania. What was a key match for you that really stood out when you was growing up, man?
I think it was like the theatrics. I don't think it was only probably like a couple of years or so later I started understanding like the kind of work rate and like good matches because I used to watch any old stuff as long as it was wrestling, as long as it was like entrances and storylines. I probably watched a lot of terrible, like the Goldust and the 1-2-3 Kid, like the superstars element of the matches, and just been blown away by it. But I think it's probably after like the sort of Stone Cold and kind of understanding like Bret Hart and probably being exposed to a bit more of the other stuff like WCW and some of the like the ECW stuff that was like floating around online.
Yeah.
Kind of started to make me see things a little bit differently and understand how matches are structured and the kind of more to like just the psychology and the storytelling as opposed to just flashing colors and images and people on the screen.
Right. So learning about the Japanese wrestling scene, WCW and ECW, did venturing outside of WWF or WWE make you appreciate it more, or did you kind of like your taste kind of change a bit as you grew up?
You know what? It's really weird because I think you can all kind of agree with this. Like your tastes do change because I was like, the whole kind of tape trader industry when people used to like share like ECW and the New Japan and the best of the best and the Triple A stuff, all that stuff. And then even like going into like Ring of Honor, when you start seeing all the crazy jumps and the flips, and it's like, wow, this is something I've never seen before. Especially like Ring of Honor, like you're looking like, what, 2004, 5, 6, even like when it first started off. The moves and matches were crazy and they used to blow my mind. And then obviously you'd look at headlocks and wrist locks and WWE and go, this is kind of nowhere near as good. But then a couple of years later, you realize he just hit him on his head 3 times and it didn't mean anything. Like,
Yeah.
then it started to get then you start understanding like the spot thing. And that just starts to drive me insane now. Like even now when I watch it, the stuff that I used to love when I was a kid. If somebody comes out and does a head drop once or twice and it kicks out, I'm like, I'm not watching this anymore. It just annoys me. Like it's just
So
like do you know what I mean? Like I think your taste definitely do change. Don't I still like a good spot fest, but like and then the older you get, once you get kind of through the whole cool fancy moves, like it needs to mean something.
Yeah.
so
Okay.
you so do you believe well now the alternative being mainly AEW, so does that sort of like um I guess wear out the sort of heads drops and different spots like that? Is that has that lost the meaning when you're watching a wrestling match and you prefer certain moves being protected, like the way Kevin Owens brought in the pile driver and something extremely devastating, or the Mexican destroyer that Penta brings in, which is sort of there in small flashes, but these moves are more protected. Is that something you prefer compared to what you're?
Yeah, I think the challenge you've got is what the two examples that you've done is because it's happening so often now, it does lose its meaning. So you had like on SmackDown, you've got Kevin Owens power drive, Cody Rhodes, and then you've got Penta on Raw using it as a secondary move maybe twice in a match, and it doesn't get 2 counts. So yeah, I think the more devastating moves, the more you protect them. You look at some of like the best finishers, like the DDT is like back in the day was a deadly move. And I know independent wrestlers now that are like getting that over or something like a choke. Everyone's trying to do all like the cool moves, but again, it comes down to psychology. If you make it mean something, then it's going to mean something, right?
You know what, Scan? Not to prolong it, I worked it out.
Yeah.
You're a Shawn Michaels fan, and the world has killed the super kick. I can see why you got some grievances.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
kind of overdid it now, man. You probably need about in AEW, you probably need about 20 super kicks to get a 2 count, you know?
I think I've seen more super kicks than wrist locks
Yeah.
across both shows, to be honest, because you look at like both the Usos use it.
Mm.
One day we're going to have the Young Bucks versus the Usos, and it's going to be, I reckon, 1,000 super kicks minimum.
But what did you think about like when MJF and Adam Cole got over the double clothesline?
That was brilliant. I loved it. So simple. And so I was there, and when you see the crowd erupt,
Yeah.
it says the same with his kung fu kick, the kangaroo kick. Is it called a
Kangaroo
kangaroo
kick.
kick? Yeah, it's a dumb move, but like you build it. When you finally do it, it's crazy. I always reminds me. There's this one match. I think it's Crash Holly and someone from like SmackDown. It's like a 5 minute match, but they just tease this the body slam over and over. It's such a short match, and then when he hits him with a body slam, the crowd go crazy. I'm like, you just built a 4.5 minute over a standard move, and it made the crowd pop.
Yeah. So we kind of need to bring it back a bit, man. But I'm gonna bring it back a bit, man. Tell us about your first live experience of watching wrestling, man, and how that affected you.
It's going back a long. I think I was 10 years old. It was like a house show in it was a house show in Birmingham. They had some heavy hitters. I think it was like Undertaker and the Big Show versus Steve Austin and The Rock, like the main event. It was like big. They went big. That was probably like my first experience, like when I was really getting into it. And I was wearing all the t-shirts and I was reading all the magazines, so I obviously had to go and watch it. It was great. You get to see the spectacle. You realize how big they are. Like the Big Shows, it's no joke. He's massive. Even people like Billy Gunn was massive, and it's like how they oiled up and this, that, and the other when you're a bit up close. And that's the first time like someone gave me the high five and all that stuff. It's crazy, man. Like you get to see it. There's nothing better than watching it live, in my opinion, in terms of the atmosphere and the energies at certain times. And obviously, it's very popular now. Like the European crowds, and being part of that crowd is great. And obviously, being part of like a WrestleMania crowd, but it's like the first rush of like waiting and hearing everyone talk about wrestling and in the queue and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't believe I forgot that even happened until you just reminded me, man. Yeah, 10 years old. 10 years. A lot of shows since, man. Paul.
Man, so you mentioned WrestleMania. Did you get a chance to go to a WrestleMania?
I've been to two. I went to. I was very fortunate to two. I went to WrestleMania 30, which is my first one, headlined by Daniel Bryan and the Triple Threat in New Orleans, and then I went last year. So
Yeah.
I think as far as trips I could have gone to, I lucked out on two very, very, very good ones.
Yeah, good choices. Yeah.
How do you rate your two Mania experiences? How were they for you?
Perfect, man. I couldn't have gone to two better ones, and it also is just like the logistics of the places that I went to as well. Like New Orleans was all walking distance. Same with like Philly, everything was like tubes or trains. It was really easy to get around. The shows were great. I'll be real though, that first night last year was cold, bro. I've never felt that cold. So when they're on the commentators and they're like, oh yeah, it's really really cold. They were not kidding, man. They were not kidding.
Damn.
We're
Wow.
not cold at all. But that's probably the only criticism. But yeah, WrestleMania 30 was amazing. I feel like those two manias actually stand out as well. So like if you look at wrestling in general and like build ups to all the storylines, and some don't have the greatest either main events or they have certain snooze fests. Obviously, WrestleMania 40 did have some, but I feel like those two really do stand out in the last, probably since like WrestleMania 17, because I still don't think nothing's beaten that.
Yeah, yeah.
But in terms of like the spectacle and stuff, like WrestleMania last year was great. And I must admit, WrestleMania 33 though, I like the stage and the spectacles of that. I think that's probably one of the best manias. So at least you had that. At least it looked pretty, right?
Yeah, it did look beautiful. It was probably one of the best stages. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So you're definitely not going to wait another 10 years to see a next Mania then.
I hope not. But with the price and stuff going on, I mean, I'd love to go next year, but we'll see what the universe has in store for me, right? So if I'm meant to go,
Yeah.
I'll be. So
Right. So let's get into your music, man. I mean, has music been like a lifelong passion for you as well, or is that something that's come later on, or
yeah, no, that was probably around about the same time. I was probably a little bit older. I was sort of like 12, 13. I started listening to music and really wanted to be something that I would like to do. It was always like the creative stuff. So like I never wanted to be on like Top of the Pops or anything like that. Like I wasn't a hairbrush kind of guy. It's just always I was always fascinated by the beats, what kind of goes on behind the scenes. So yeah, we all start off with I can't remember what it was called on the PlayStation. It was like Music 2000 or something, like the little game that you used to play. And then EJ was like a drag and drop, and then I got FL Studio Fruit Loops at the time, and that's it. Never looked back, man.
so,
So
so, so
that's
did you
kind of how yeah.
so did you start with grime then, or is that how you got in, or did you go
Um,
straight to hip hop?
I've always been into like rap and hip hop, so I was always like, I grew up on Dre, Snoop, so like gangs of rap, also things like Tribe Called Quest and Mobb Deep. So those kind of dirty, gritty beats were kind of me. So when I first started making beats, it was all sort of sample based. And as I got older and learned about sample clearance and all that sort of stuff, I learned kind of chord progressions and had to like create my own stuff. Yeah, wrestling's been a journey for me. So I did take some time away. So like maybe it was like 2012 was kind of like my peak. 2013, where I started getting paid like Radio One and One Extra, and
Mm.
after producing for other people, I kind of just used the Zaheer brand and went out. And then a few years later, I kind of started fusing that with pro wrestling. I
Right.
always tried to keep the two together, but someone said to me, like, you know what, you need to put the two together. And I was like, I don't know. And then I did one song and kind of haven't looked back.
So
Pretty much what I'm known
tell
for
us
now.
about that song, man. What was the breakthrough?
Which one?
That first got you
First song.
notoriety in the wrestling.
So I've been really, really fortunate to know a lot of really cool people in the wrestling industry. One of them is Nick Aldis. He was always really, really supportive when somebody didn't need to be supportive.
Yeah.
He did a lot for me, which I was very, very grateful for. So I always wanted to do these songs like concept songs about a rapper, about a wrestler in rap form. So
Okay,
you know,
let's backtrack a little bit. How did you meet Nick Aldis? How did that?
I met him. This would have been like years ago, probably at one of the TNA or shows. So I knew one of the writers for Power Slam. I don't know if any of you boys used to read that back in the day.
Bro, I just
I
threw out
remember
like
it.
about 50 issues of Power Slam,
Uh,
literally.
so so from there, I got to meet a few people. So it's like Mo Chatra was one, Finn Martin was the other, Dean Ice was another. So just sort of from there, they kind of put me in touch with Nick in terms of like music for TNA and Impact and things like that. So nothing really materialized at that time, but we've always been in contact. He's always been a really, really supportive guy. So that's kind of how that relationship built. Then when I kind of got back into this, I was like, if I'm going to do a song, it's got to be for this guy, like because he's always supported, and it was supposed to just be like an ode. So sat down with one of my close friends, Swami Brackers, who we'll talk about again later. So,
Mhm.
and I was like, look, this is his gimmick, this is his story, this is the beat I've got. I want to do a track, and we obviously put it online. He loved it. He kind of did a video, and NWA like did a video and started marketing it. But the song got so popular, and then as his character changed, it became his like theme. So that was probably the first time, like, but let's be real, like 8 years old to however long playing the WWE games and seeing everything and thinking, one day someone's gonna walk out on my song and like, and then it happens. you know what, bro? It's been years since that's been happening. It never gets old, whether it's an indie guy, whether it's on TV, nothing. So, yeah, that was like the first one. So, Nick Aldis, God Save the King was the track. And then obviously he used it in NWA and Impact and well, everywhere for a good couple of years.
That's amazing, man. And that was obviously the breakthrough moment for you, man. So where did you go after that in terms of working with wrestlers? Did they start coming to you, or did you approach wrestlers? How did it work?
I think it was a combination of the two because obviously I was known as a music producer and then, well, especially within the wrestling scene, so people would come to me for like for work. But again, Nick Aldis, it all comes down to Nick Aldis, man. He's done so much for me. I owe him pretty much everything. He put me in touch with people like Enzo Amore to do rap beats for him because he's a rapper too.
Hmm.
From that, he put me in touch with obviously his missus, Mickey James. So I did 2 songs for her, and one of them became like a theme. So it just started growing, and because I started to get like my brand out there a little bit, there was just people that I wanted to make music with. So Brian Cage being one of them because I met his wife
Mm.
at one of the shows. And obviously like started following each other on Instagram, and she did this like dance challenge for one of the songs I did for Mickey James, and I was always just like, maybe I could do a song for Brian one day, and then we did, and that's probably my biggest win is obviously having him come out to my song on AEW TV.
That's amazing.
That's probably the biggest one. So yeah, I've got some songs with like Enzo Amore, Mickey James. I've done some stuff for like Leo Rush, and then in terms of wrestlers, probably the biggest. Obviously, you got Nick Aldis, um, Brian Kay is definitely the biggest one. Then I've done stuff like Mariah May, some of the indie stuff, Kira Hogan. There's quite I've got I'm really really grateful on my CV's like wild. And I think the biggest thing for me is like some of those people I literally grew up watching. So
Yeah.
we talk about Brian Cage, but I remember Chris Logan from FCW, like with his like he was like Canyon Light back in the day because he was pretty much using all his moves. So getting to a point where not only you get to work with them but build like a friendship, it's still wild to me, man. 8-year-old me is just gassed all the time.
Nice.
I got 2 questions just to build upon that lovely story and journey of people you've worked with and how it came to be. One is, what's your favorite theme song at this very moment? And second, who would you have loved to have made a entrance music for, if dead or alive?
Favorite theme song right now is just I don't even know because there's different levels to it, right? There's like songs that whatever I like I would listen to, but songs that kind of fit the character.
Mm.
I don't know.
I would say fit the character then, like, because you would make it to fit the character, right? So, what's the best song that fits the character today? And I know
Probably.
I will bring up Death Rebel later, and I know it's the, but yeah, still try.
I'm gonna say so. Like one of my favorites, I like the like solo and Fatu song. So I
Mm.
feel like they're bangers, but they also suit the character.
Yeah.
Mm.
I know it's like played out, but like Cody's song is like a banger.
Yeah.
And I was there at WrestleMania 40. They must have played it for about 40 minutes straight. And
Wow.
every single time the crowd were going, whoa, because he was doing all his cheering at the end. So that's probably one of my favorite ones. I like Osprey's song as well because it really fits his character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are probably some of them. In terms of people I'd love to work for, I would have liked to do something like for The Rock in terms of his like final boss character, but make it a bit more like something like a cross between like a Final Fantasy song and like one of those like cinematic songs.
Mm.
But obviously his song is iconic. And then you've obviously got the creative part of it, and then you've got the would it work for his character or would it get can I swear? Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, do
Yeah.
it.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. For it to get shit on. That's the other thing because people don't like change.
Yeah, yeah. I hear that, bro. That's incredible, man. So does it obviously being within the matrix of it now, man, and obviously in between making these theme songs for the wrestlers, man, you've got your own solo career going as well as an artist. So how do you manage to find time to adapt and fit that in?
I think I'm in a really good spot right now because I only really pick and choose my projects. So I'm only really doing things now that are like labors of love.
Mhm.
So I'm not really so I've got to get myself out there and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. Like if a project's something that I want to do, I'll do it. So um, to be honest, like things just seem to work out. That I have my times when I feel creative for myself. I'll do that when I've got projects that I want to produce for other people. I'll knuckle down and make some beats. And then when anyone approaches me, whether it's a company, then somebody like Mickey James or somebody messages me. That's it. That's my priority.
Yeah, that's amazing, bro. And what would you say is like the end game for you in terms of like producing for wrestlers, man? What is there still goals? Is there still things you want to accomplish?
I think it's more just kind of doing more of the same, to be honest. Like if you look at like the British wrestling scene, I've done a lot of themes for people. Obviously, I kind of started wrestling myself a couple of years ago
Mm.
through doing the music. So I meet a lot of people and they kind of know me as a music guy. So getting to do stuff like that, even like at the small level, like when I go to a show and there's like 50 to 100 people in there and they come out to my song, feels just as cool as seeing as like Brian Cage come out to it as like Wembley. So
Yeah.
it's just little things like that. So hopefully it's more of the same. Any opportunities that come my way, I've got good working relationships with people like TNA,
Mm.
NWA, and obviously now AEW and Ring of Honor. So
Yeah.
whenever opportunities kind of come, I'm more than happy just kind of where I'm at and doing what I love.
That's fantastic, man. So I guess a lot of us wrestling fans probably dream about one day stepping in the ring but obviously we're not crazy enough to do it. What made you want to be like, you know what? I'm gonna try and be a pro wrestler.
Some
Why?
of us notice that it's crazy and then they do it anyway. That's the kind of long and short of it. So what basically happened is the more I kind of got my name out there through the wrestling stuff and people seeing that on TV and going, oh, this guy lives in Milton Keynes, and kind of befriending some of the local kind of talent. There's actually a training school in Milton Keynes, which is where I live.
Mm.
And they were doing like one free trial, and I knew a couple of people that went there. So I was like, you know what, let me just go and make use of this for like free training session, see what it's like, learn how to run the ropes and bump. And that was sort of it. Kind of fell in love with the process. Decided I'll still train just for a laugh, and then I was like, I'll do one match for a laugh, and then yeah, the rest. Many bumps later, here we are, like 18 to 2 years later. Yeah, wrestling.
Man, so did you have to change like your dietary requirements, or did you have to bulk up a little bit, or like
Nah, not really. I mean, if you see the rest of half of Brit rest, bro, none of them go to the gym.
yeah,
None of them will really work out or do cardio and conditioning. So I'm quite active anyway, so I've kind of been all right. But yeah, I kind of added like cardio and conditioning. But I think a lot of that comes with experience because there's so much cardio and conditioning you can do, yeah, but it's different when you're out in that ring, bro. Like I would say I've got good cardio generally.
yeah,
But when you're out there, especially in those first few matches, you get to breathe and stuff. Like I'm really good at breathing, like through my nose and out through my mouth. Not in wrestling, bro. Those first couple of like 2, 3 matches. I remember my first match, bro. I was gassed. I did like Ultimate Warrior, man. I was gassed out for my entrance, man. So I was like, yeah, it was proper. And then luckily it was a tag match. And I was standing on the side. I was like, oh, I needed that. I need a protein bar and nap up for this, man. But yeah, you get you get used to it, and I find like we're working my cardio and conditioning. I remember those like first few days, man, like first few matches, just like open mouth, really struggling to breathe, having that really bad dry mouth. But
yeah,
it kind of gets better. But again, it comes down to it's very different when you spend an hour on the stepper or doing hit workouts in
mm.
the gym to like being out there in front of a crowd and the lights are on and you're there in your skimpy clothes. It's very very different. So.
And so who designed your wrestling gear, man? And did you come up with a concept for it, or
I design most of my stuff myself, man. I'm a big fan of like, so, bro, let's be real. How many of us have spent? I think I spent more years of my life on the wrestling games doing the Creator Wrestler Retires than actually playing any of the games. So I've always kind of had this like aesthetic that I've always liked. And I
mm,
like people like Kenny Omega's tights, like the spray tights.
mm,
And because I kind of play like myself in wrestling, it's just like I'm me, but the wrestler version of me. So the superhero cosplay stuff was always something I liked. So I've kind of just incorporated some of the designs that I've always wanted or I'd like myself to look like. But then obviously it's got like my logos all over it. So I've got a couple like cosplays like Captain America, Iron Man, which is very like Iron Man inspired, but with my logos. The best gear I've ever done is like an Eddie Guerrero tribute. So I've always wanted to do. So once I started doing the superhero stuff, I was like, I want to start paying tribute to some wrestlers. So that's probably my favorite gear I've ever done. But most of it I've got to design myself. I've had Reap What You Sow, Josh King, in my opinion, probably the best gear maker in the UK right now.
yeah,
I've done two sets of my gear, which are probably my favorite, but they were like handcrafted by him and actually designed by him. I'm so particular with designs, but he's so good at what he does. I was like, he was just like, lead me to it. And I was like, you know what? Here you go. And they're definitely like my favorite bits of gear. So,
Man, can I ask a really random question?
yeah.
What is the sort of like this probably might be interesting to people who start in wrestling, but what sort of materials that people make their gears out of? Like what sort of alternatives do you have? Is it like polyester? Is it flipping like
Yeah,
a nylon?
it's mainly like lycra fabric. But again, it depends on who you are, your character. Like I know some people who would wear like overalls because they do like a prison gimmick or day release gimmick. Some people wear the tights, trunks. It really depends on your character. I know someone who dresses like a jester because that's like part of their character. So it really does depend. I'm not brave enough to wear the tighties though, bro. You're not gonna see me in those trunks with my legs out and my yeah, that's not for me, man. But I've always liked the tight, the knee pads, kick pads look. So people like AJ Styles and Seth, those were like my favorite styles. Even going back, you got like Shawn Michaels back in the day before he started wearing those god awful wide leg trousers. So that's kind of like what I would prefer. But yeah, you can't be a wrestler in a good pair of trunks.
That's right, bro. So in terms of as you as the wrestler, man, what's the biggest match you would say you've had to date or that's upcoming for you?
Biggest match to date. I'm not sure. I think the biggest crowd I've probably wrestled in front of for like 400, 450 people. That was at our Milton Keynes one, where I actually won a title. It was the first title I ever won. I've wrestled Enzo actually. I wrestled Enzo in New Jersey. That was like one of my first matches. So I got to wrestle an ex WWE guy in front of a crowd. I'll tell you what, those rings hurt a lot more, especially those ropes, man. Like, you learned how to run the ropes. And I remember I was running the ropes before the match. Like I hit them, they didn't move, bro. They're like, so I was like, oh, you have to really hit them. So yeah, that's why people always get those like scars. So those are probably the two coolest matches I've probably had. One was when I won the belt at the biggest show at Apex, and probably the one that I wrestled. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but yeah, those are probably the ones that stick out the most.
That's amazing, man. And how long did you keep the belt for?
I lost it. Can't remember. I probably had it for about half a year,
Oh wow.
and then I lost it. I lost it through nefarious means. And then I fought for it again. I didn't quite win it, but I never lost that belt, bro. I was never beaten for that belt. So
You didn't put them over clean. It was nefarious.
Something like that. Yeah, I pinned myself.
Oh wow.
What?
Yeah. So due to my inexperience, I hit him with my finisher, and then I did the cool, like the Shawn Michaels thing where he like lays on them backwards. Obviously, me being inexperienced, my shoulders were down in it, so I got cramped down. I stood up. I was like, yeah, I was on the top rope, like cheering, and then referee gave the belt to the guy on the floor. So yeah, and then I fought again, and someone came in and knocked me out in the belt. So I've not been beaten for that belt. So whoever gets that belt, they need to be mindful of that. So I will be back.
That's amazing, bro. So you told us about obviously the highlights in your as a wrestler. Now you've brought the two worlds together. You've got this single that's just dropped with a wicked video featuring the legend himself, Ryan Skillett, and another close collaborator of yours who you mentioned earlier in the interview as well. Right? Tell us about how you first met Skillett and why you felt you needed to bring the worlds together.
He's a big wrestling fan, so I think I came across some of his stuff, just like retweets on like Twitter, and then I remember seeing and he was obviously saying and doing stuff very similar to the kind of circle, and I was like, he knows his stuff. And then I was like, I swear I know this guy, and I must have known him from like 10+ years ago. I probably never really spoken to him, but I obviously knew him as a rapper, and he's just like us, man. We're all wrestling nerds that love wrestling and love rapping, so. We did a song for Warren Banks, which is our first kind of collaboration together. He was a really big British wrestler. Unfortunately, he had to retire. We were really, really lucky that we had this song and we got to like perform it as his like walkout theme for his last match at Progress, which was a really, really cool moment. So I think I mentioned this earlier. Like I'm all about doing projects that mean a lot to me, and Warren's an amazing human. You won't hear anyone have a bad word to say. Such a good guy. I actually tagged with him in my first match at Apex as well,
Oh,
and obviously we went over because obviously. So that was like the least we could do was do that. So yeah, I got a friendship with both of these guys. Me and Swami, I've been friends with him for like 20 years. Our song was the first song that got into Radio One that I produced for him.
wow.
Obviously got to do a song with Skillet, and I was like, look, these guys are like my brothers, man. I love them to bits, and we all love wrestling. And we all love music. I need to do this for us. A labor of love. I need to put my boys together, and I want to do a song that means something for me. And I was like, bro, you boys got them rap punchlines, you got them wrestling bars for me, and they were like challenge accepted. And yeah, the whole project has just been a pleasure from start to finish. Kicking around ideas, we got to record it together. We got to shoot the video. That was a tough day, bro. I'm not gonna lie, because I had 2 matches in between. So defended the belt, then we shot this video, and then had another match afterwards. So yeah, it was just. I think you can watch it from the video. We had a lot of fun on the day, and I think that kind of translates and comes over. But I got to do a song that I really wanted to do with 2 people that are really, really close to me. The whole project was fun. The fact that people love it is just an added bonus.
Yeah.
If we did that, we've got like 1 view online. It's been great, but we've had a lot of good coverage from it, and been really, really lucky because people like Brian Cage and like Victoria, Lisa Marie from WWE, and a few of the other people have shared it, and it's obviously reached a wider. You know what? The biggest flex, right?
Yeah.
Dave Meltzer shared it.
Ah,
Dave Meltzer shared it on Twitter. Of all the people that could have shared it, that was wild, man.
Come on,
7-star
Dave.
tweet that was. Go on, Dave. Some of his comments are very hit and miss, but you know what? He's in my good books right now for sharing us on.
yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, man. Obviously, you guys have seen it and you've come across it. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun, man. And that song like cemented for life now, right? It's online. It's going to be online forever. I got to do that song with 2 dear brothers of mine. We have a lot of personal history, a lot of creative and musical history. So I was like, this has to happen.
Yeah.
That sounds like it doesn't get any better, to be honest. Like,
right?
Yeah.
to also get that sort of recognition after doing it, and Dave like retweeting it is fucking brilliant. Like, come on,
Yeah.
Dan, we got to do this shit, bruv. We both got bars.
Yeah.
Let's collab, bruv. This is the birth of the trio right here. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think there's man. The key is, man, I'm gonna ask you guys if you can think of a producer and 2 rappers, and we were a group, yeah, and we had a wrestling themed name. What would you give us?
A wrestling themed name as a group. 2 rappers and a themed wrestling.
That's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Because you kind of want something that's kind of got some UK like do you know what? It's literally gangbusters came to mind, man. I was like, let our phrases go gangbusters.
That sounds
Maybe
like an
we'll,
orgy. That sounds like an orgy, bruv. I don't want to do that.
yeah, that's not how we get down, bro. It's
That's a
not
good
that
time.
Man's getting busty on with the gang. Fuck that, bruv.
Maybe it's something for the Mega Powers TV.
Yeah, man. We'll leave that one open to the viewers. If you want to jump in the comment section, if you can think of a name for me, Sire and Zaheer, man, let's get it popping,
Let's
But
do it, man.
I would like to get your thoughts. Like, we're in an age right now where the worlds of hip hop and wrestling have coming together. You see people like Wale Mania, you see obviously West Side Gun and other prominent rappers that obviously are not afraid to talk about wrestling in their bars now. Do you feel like we need more like what do you think of that? And 2, do you think we need more representation in the UK?
I think it's really cool. I think everyone's always been. You know what? I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that the more mainstream and popular it is, it's kind of cooler to do it. Like when like comic books was for geeks, and then it became like the mainstream. And I think that's why it's like everyone's always loved wrestling, and a few of them have started putting a couple of these bars out, and they're getting a little bit of recognition from them, going, "Oh, that's a wrestling bar." And I think because of that, more people are doing it. And then you've got songs like Booker T by Bad Bunny. You got Ric Flair Drip. So it's becoming like a big thing. You'll see rappers wearing wrestling t-shirts, and it's becoming a thing now. It's a very common thing. So West Side Guns now got like Fourth Rope, which I believe is like a promotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking at something like that earlier, which is obviously very, very interesting. But fusing wrestling and rap is it's sort of a no-brainer. They kind of go hand in hand as well if you look at them, because it's all about spectacle, it's about braggadocio, who's better, whether it's battle rap or a promo. It's all very, very similar.
Yeah.
And I think it goes both ways as well, because you've got a lot of rappers now that are doing interviews like they're cutting wrestling promos as opposed to the other way around, right? I don't know if you noticed that. It's like,
Do you know one thing I've always thought, right? I don't know if you've ever seen Prime Minister's questions on a Wednesday, where you've got both parties on each side, and it's literally like wrestling promo off or a rap battle. They just get up, diss each other, sit down, the other one gets up, and it's just like head to head.
I was saying this to this girl I just went on a few dates with. She was like, I was like, politics is pro wrestling. I said, I don't interrupt me. Politics is pro wrestling. She was like, I don't get it. I'm like, everything trumps cadences, his promos he got from, he's credited to WWE and Vince. All of it is sensationalized. All of it is who's the most popular. All of it is who's the most over and charismatic, and no one cares about the policy or if you're a great wrestler. Like, same thing, they might not care about your in-ring work, but if you're charismatic, if you can really tell a story, then you'll get elected or you'll get the belt.
Bro, do you know one controversial take, bro? And when it comes up in debates, this is what comes to mind, and I'm being completely honest. When people go off about Kanye West on Twitter, I literally say, to me, it comes across like he's playing a heel character. That's what it doesn't feel genuine. I don't think he's genuine. It's coming from a genuine hateful place, but people are triggered, and I'm like, to me, it doesn't seem that dissimilar from The Rock playing the final boss. To me, that's what I see.
Are you saying that Kanye West has like worked himself into a shoot, or is he shooting himself into a work?
He's gone. He's worked himself into a shoot and shot himself into a work. That's how it comes across to me.
Yeah, but I think when we got the wrestling arena, and also to some degree music and hip hop, when you've got that arena and you're doing all of that stuff, that can be a bit tongue in cheek, it can be serious. But if you're on a X platform, like literally target speaking on your personal experiences in business from certain different races and demographics and then cussing them, that's different to The Rock doing and making fun of Hulk Hogan. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, so I had to do that on live.
Let me rephrase that. Elements. I wouldn't say everything, because I can't even keep up with everything that guy says on Twitter. But I would elements of what he says. Even with Trump, even with Musk, even with flipping, who's the other guy? That just that Tate guy. They just come across like, to me, they just come across like wrestling heels.
But the last album that Kanye's releasing is called Bully. So what's he being online? He's being a bully. Yeah, so it's just a promo, it's a rollout.
Playing the character. I think the guy who paved the way for that was Chael Sonnen from UFC. He was like 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
Like he was lifting like lines from like the 80s NWA promos and like slicing them into his like post-fight interviews and all sorts. Like so, and he was very open about it later on. But you've seen that in like UFC and stuff. You've got these people that are playing these heel characters.
Yeah.
What's that? Colby Covington and people like that. They're literally molded from pro wrestling. You're right. A lot of stuff is pro wrestling, man. Like,
because, like, for example, Drake was at the last Elimination Chamber in the crowd. You know, Kendrick says "Sweet Chin Music" on "Not Like Us." You know, it's literally in your face now. You know, and Triple H would say something like, "It's the best form of entertainment that's ever existed." Pro wrestling. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, me personally, I've been watching that stuff since I was 8.
He's asking the wrong people.
You're preaching to the converted, bro. Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, it's just, but like, yeah, it depends what kind of entity, because you still get the whole kind of wrestling is fake. But I'm like, bro, like EastEnders is not a documentary. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. I never understood. Like, I always saw it like the Avenger cartoons and stuff. I'll be real. I thought the Power Rangers were real before wrestling was real, man. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that's always been my thing. Like, it's always been theatrics and entertainment, but there's no do-overs when you're out in that ring, man. Like, you don't get a second, you don't get a stunt double. And doing it myself, man, I mean the hardest thing is like it's a very mentally challenging thing because there's so much you got to remember, like timing and positioning. making sure you bump it. And then obviously you got to make sure it looks like it's legitimate as well, right? So
Yeah.
there's so many factors that go into it, and you're doing it live. It's like it is like theatre. It's like action. There's so much, and you do see it. Like people talk about botches and people losing their way. It's hard, man. There's so much stuff you got to remember.
Mm.
The weird thing is, yeah, sorry, Scan, just about the theatre bit that you said, right? I worked in a theatre charity for about a year and on and off in different performance arts centres. And what really baffles me with all these like really good independent British directors who have shot short films or plays all over the country, they really do dismiss wrestling. Like it's not even considered as any sort of like contribution to the art form of theatre, or it hasn't even been like um revised or used for different like scenes in a lot of the spaces I'm in, specifically in Britain. And that I think is like they're missing out on a lot of great storytelling work, body language, you know, all of this stuff that goes into the intricacies of telling stories in wrestling can definitely be adapted into short films and plays. And I don't understand why there's such a distance. Have you ever
It
like
still, it still comes down to that kind of like pride and that dismissive of it's wrestling, it's fake fighting. But tell you what, how many times do you get to rehearse your lines in a theatre show?
Mm.
Like get to practice a lot before you get a promo. Like even at the top level, these guys don't get to rehearse their stuff. Like in front of millions of people, like the amount of skill level that takes to be like, here's a promo. You need to say it with conviction or make into your own words. And we're going to shoot it in about 20 minutes. And it's going to go live in about an hour.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Crazy.
so how has being a professional wrestler, because I guess you consider yourself a professional wrestler now, changed your views on professional wrestling?
I think it's always something for me. Like I was like, I always knew it was going to be very difficult. It's just never something I thought I would do or be able to do. Probably because I've got a lot of respect for it, and I just didn't think it's going to be something that I would want to do. Or it's very far out of reach. It's not. It's not. I mean, you can start training and learning your craft and kind of on a small scene. But I think for me, I always knew wrestling was hard. I knew wrestling was very difficult. I knew it was going to hurt. Those bumps do not get easier, bro. Like, plus I'm like 150 pounds, man. I'm like skin and bones. Like bumps hurt. But I
Yeah.
think for me, it's like the little things. Like when I watch it now, it's hard to watch it fully as a fan because I'm always mindful about what's going on. And I even watch it people like masters of your craft, like the WrestleMania, like the main events, and just the little things, like the little things that they do, how they play the characters, how they play to the cameras, where their positioning is, where they bump, the timing and the character. I have so much more appreciation for it. So it adds a different layer of like enjoyment of watching it.
Hmm. Right. So, I mean, at the start of this interview, you mentioned that Shawn Michaels was your guy. Based on the current product, who would you say are like your top three wrestlers at the moment?
Is that across both shows?
Yeah, you can say that if you
Yeah.
like.
So I was never a big fan of Osprey, but he was, I'd say, is probably one of my favorites. I would say right now. He's kind of toned down his um, spot fests. He does make things a lot more meaningful, and he's had banger after banger. I don't know, three's too much because I was thinking like Brian Danielson would have been another one. Obviously, he's been injured recently, but before he was injured, he was Swerve. I'm a big fan of Swerve. Uh, I feel like he's got it all because he's got the skill set. He's got the aura. So I would say that those are like my three from
AEW.
AEW.
Hmm.
WWE, I don't know. See, I'm a big fan of people like AJ Styles, but I don't think AJ Styles had a good year. Or you know what? I love the guy. He's still not had a good Mania match. Like that's really upsetting. Don't see. It's been
wait a
nearly a
minute,
decade,
man.
but
Shane McMahon was a classic
yeah,
match.
that was a good match, but that was it. Like he's had so many potential good matches, like that
That's his
Nakamura.
best one. That's his
Yeah,
best one.
exactly. I
And
agree. Yeah.
that's 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 a terrible thing to say. Scan
Mm.
knows. I was like, fuck it. I know Jay. I know he won the Royal Rumble, but I was like, what? Look, AJ's had this build last year. He had that backlash moment. He looks better than ever. Like, why not just give him a title shot against Gunther at WrestleMania for his last You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that would have been the worst decision in the world. Maybe wrestling fans would have hated it, but I think AJ deserved that. But yeah,
Yeah.
go on. Sorry, you're naming your three.
Yeah. Who, who do I really like? I'm actually really surprised, but I actually started to like CM Punk. I haven't liked him for about a decade, but he's
Wow.
he's getting good right now. Yeah. I think Roman's probably one of my favorites right now. He's top. I think he's probably one of the best wrestlers in a long time. He's got it all. And then for me right now, it's a cross between Bron Breakker and Fatu. I love the way that they booked them guys. I love the intensity of both of them. It's the one I watched the Rumble and I knew Fatu was going to steal the show. But for me, I thought Breaker stole the show. He really hung in there with the big guys. Crazy intense. He's got a lot going for him. So I'd say in terms of like the upcoming guys, it's definitely those two.
Wow.
Good choice.
I totally agree with those choices, man. How are you feeling the WWE's move to Netflix? Has that been a win?
I think it depends what way you look at it. In terms of like for us fans, I think it's great because it's obviously accessibility. I don't know if you ever like the WWE Network was terrible. They've been around for like 10 years and had the worst like player of everything. Like I had to get rid of it and start watching it on pirates because it was just easier, man. Like you can at least skip through it and it's horrible interface.
Did you have the same problems like I had where you would go in and it would take forever to load, and then if you watched it at a certain specific point, you come back, it would always start in the beginning, or if you wanted to forward or rewind it, rewinding it just 10 minutes would take 20 minutes because it would move so slow. Is that the same shit?
Well, what would happen is like, like, all right, I watched it until this match, so I'm going to pick it up from there. And then you forward it, and you either never get there or you get past it, and then you ruin the match.
Yeah,
after.
and then you see what happens.
Horrible. Yeah, it's like, so I was like, you know what?
Knows my pain.
Yeah. So I think accessibility is great. I think also, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but a lot more people are talking about it. Going, oh yeah, I'm sorry, watching this and the Vince documentary and all this sort of stuff. So I think in terms of accessibility, it's been great. I do think the product has kind of suffered a little bit personally, like because the thing is the model of wrestling has totally changed now, right? So back in the day, it was like you had to watch it on pay-per-view. Anything that went online, for example, on YouTube would get removed instantly. But the business model is very, very different now. Everything's accessible. They're getting paid no matter who listens and who watches. Doesn't really matter. There's no real build up to the PLEs because it's just an event, right? There's no difference. Like WrestleMania, in my opinion, will always sell itself. People will buy tickets before they know, which I feel like has affected the build up to Mania, which we'll probably talk about. But yeah, I think it's had a lot of good, but also a lot of bad. But for me, it's really made watching it easy. I can watch it. I don't know how anyone watches it live, man, with all the adverts, but you can flick through it, find whichever bits you want to watch. At the same time, you can do that on YouTube now, right? So in terms of accessibility, brilliant. In terms of booking, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
Here we go. I know what do I think of Def Rebel? Yeah, I might be that as the music. I love music. I love pro wrestling. I might be the only Def Rebel sympathizer in the world, though.
Really?
You know what, bro? They're stuck, and I think this is what comes down to understanding how the wrestling sync world works. They don't want to pay other people for using their music. Yeah. So it makes sense for them to have somebody in-house that's doing all these for them that they can fully own. They're already doing their job. That's me personally. I've had these conversations with certain companies. I would never want to do that full time because you're a slave to deadlines. You're a slave to doing what they need you to do. I reckon 90% of that stuff's AI generated anyway, personally. The days of like being a creative,
fucking
like
sounds
Jim
it.
Johnson was.
Sorry, it fucking sounds it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, this person's joining up. We need a theme. Okay, cool. Get them to voice note me something on WhatsApp. That'll be their signature, and then we'll whack it through AI. We'll put the soundbite at the front. Job done. So, I think that's the thing. And also, would people switch off because there's no good themes? Probably that's the other thing. So I get it from their perspective. I just think it really affects the enjoyment of the product. I don't know was it last year, even this year, like the Royal Rumble, right? You've got to wait for them to come out because it's like 10, 9, 8, and then it's like, okay, we don't know who's coming out. And then you see them and go, oh, right. I thought this person's always... I think that's the thing that...
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. I think like that really affects the enjoyment of the product. But I think, again, unfortunately, it's a business decision. I think Def Rebel are in a really bad situation where, I mean, I'm sure they don't cry because their bank balance is probably wild for doing it full time. But I think, again, it comes down to not being able to be creative, which is why I couldn't do that because I don't want to make a song for the sake of it. I have to sit down, understand the character, and work towards it. So And also, a lot of the songs don't really suit the character either. So maybe them AI prompts need a bit of work, maybe, you know?
Because you've got some experience, obviously catering to entrance and theme songs. I know, and that was what my suspicion was. Is like they don't want to pay anyone else. Imagine paying syncs for, I don't know, a Kendrick track for someone coming out like Swerve or whatever. But like, what's the alternative? They're not all major artists or even independent artists aren't all exactly tied down to labels for whatever they produce will be given to. Do you know what I mean? Has to give a cut to the label. So there must be like an independent contract or publishing deal that certain independent, really talented musicians can start making tracks for the wrestlers.
Yeah, I mean,
Where
that's
they
the
pay
thing.
the same.
Sorry, yeah, sorry.
No, where they pay the same. That's all I was going to say. Yeah.
I think it comes down to like licensing because not mentioning certain bands, but they've done some songs for WWE and they sold the rights to it for like $500 and they've been using it for like a decade, right? So all that money is going to them. So every time that wrestler comes out or they buy merchandise or whatever, or it's on TV, obviously they don't get paid. WWE do. So I think a lot of it comes down to the money or how big the wrestler is. Because obviously people like even like Nakamura, like the CFO. I don't know how you say their names. You know what I'm talking about. CFO, the dollar. A lot of their songs got phased out as well because it came down to that license and royalties and things like that. So unfortunately, I think that's the issue. But like, how easy would it be for them to say we want to use someone's and we want to give an independent artist a platform, submit your songs.
Yeah.
You could build a little like library and archive. Like again, I've had those conversations with some of the bigger companies, and yeah, it comes down to they want you to relinquish your rights completely. But like, I mean, if you love wrestling and they're giving you an opportunity for you to say that you can do it, then why not?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's very true, man. I mean, they do it with some of the biggest pop stars, they'll set up like, I don't know, Rihanna camps. So like if you want to submit your songs to Rihanna, you know, there's an opportunity, and that's how you're gonna build the next generation of wrestling theme song makers if you provide an opportunity, because
But
And I think, like me personally, there's two things that really stand out for a character and wrestler for me personally as well is the theme and their attire. Like I think that's just as good as important as their character
yeah,
and how good they can wrestle. Like
yeah,
you need to have a combination of all of them. So you look at certain people, like they've got Seth and the amount of time, money, and energy that he spends in his gear. Like you've got a budget, man. It's this WWE you're talking about. You're charging like £200 for like the nosebleeds of your raw tapings, man. Like,
yeah,
come
yeah.
on,
yeah,
you know.
that's
Well,
very true.
that's you know, I forgot what I was going to say. It's a very. I'm not as an artist as a rapper like, and who's someone who's worked in a lot of music spaces for quite some time now. I haven't found anyone who's that comfortable relinquishing their rights. Obviously, it's independence against majors, but and I know WWE have got like a reputation for being quite capitalistic in a lot of sense, but I don't see how they can't give a small percentage and still pay the same and still not give up the entirety of the identity of the song. They can still control how it moves. It's just that individual get a certain amount on syncs. At the moment, they don't have to pay that much, but
Mm.
even if it's like a small percentage of 2.5%, people might be a bit more intrigued.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, at the moment, they get paid all the sync money as well because they own it all, right? So
Yeah.
it's an additional revenue stream. But like, I mean, if you had an opportunity to submit something, like the difference is whether it's your catalog, right? So like the song I did for Brian Cage was part of my catalog, so I dealt with it very, very differently compared to if somebody said, "Look, we want you to do a song exclusively for us." Like I wouldn't charge much money for it, but then I know what I'm getting myself into, right? So if you're making a song for someone, you get like $1,000, $2,000 or whatever, and you're a fan of wrestling, like you would submit it. I was gonna say that the problem with that is you get people using AI and sending trash, but it worked for Def Rebel, right? So
Yeah.
That's wild, man. And that's
Well,
the era that we're in now, man. It's kind of taking the fun and the value out of music. Like any guy that's got zero talent can get a song written for them using AI, record it
Mm.
on their phone, make some trashy beat and try and put it out as music, So
Yeah.
it's kind of killing the industry a little bit, man, which is a shame.
it's all Def Rebel's fault. No, I'm joking.
Poor Def Rebel. I don't know if it's a person or a group, or like, I feel so sorry for them because they're stuck, man. They got to do what they're told, isn't it? What they're told to, what they've been paid to do, and they're doing exactly what they're asked to do. It's not
Are they
great for
though?
you.
Because I don't know if because the wrestlers have been openly showing grievances against some of the songs that they've got coming out to, and I don't know if it's Def Rebel. I mean, whoever's signing off on quality control, whoever's the production manager of who's coming out, is probably the person who's got it wrong. Because maybe, yeah, Def Rebel are doing their best of what they believe is supposed to be a wrestling theme song, but the guy who's making the decisions saying, yeah, this fits Finn Balor, this fits
Yeah.
AJ Styles, that guy needs to have a slap, maybe. I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the right thing. Again,
Mm,
someone's okaying it. But I think also I just don't think there's as much interest and appetite in it. As long as they've got a theme, as long as it's getting revenue, it comes out. But I think it suffers in terms of the identity of the wrestler.
yeah.
And you won't put somebody out there who doesn't know how to run the ropes. So why would you get somebody out there that's because that's obviously that's going to look bad for your TV product, right? So if you have the Rumble is a clear example. I was watching it, like, you don't get any pops until someone's halfway down because they don't know who's coming out, right? Like,
Exactly.
what do you do? Like, look, the prime example. I don't know if you saw. Obviously, you did the Rumble. The pop for Alexa Bliss was insane. I've never heard. I can't remember the last time I heard such a sustained pop, but a lot of that was because she came out to the theme that people know
Mm.
as her theme, right? So if she
Dun
came
dun
out with
dun
the,
dun dun dun. You know
yeah,
that's her. Dun
you
dun
know who
dun
it
dun.
is,
You
yeah.
know it is. Yeah.
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 I feel like it's really affecting the product, but again, I think for us, like music nerds and wrestling nerds, it affects them. But obviously, at the top level, they don't seem to care. But you're right. Someone needs a slap. Someone needs a slap.
Someone
Like,
needs a slap.
Right.
Gandu's gonna give it to him.
What do you think of the current Asian wrestling scene? And obviously, WWE was trying to set up like shop in India and really attack that market, and they've kind of backed off a little bit now. Is that still something that should be explored, or is that something you want to see more of going forward?
I think it hasn't. The challenge is it's a huge market.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know, like back in the day, you had like Carly, who was a heel, but they would dub the shows that they would send it out as he was a hero, and the white guys were against him. Um, it's a huge one, but how many people have come from those um, the trials and the training camps and the performance center that's been a success? Very, very, very little, if any. Not that I can think of, but I know they had that really large, the really tall Indian girl who never went. Like, it was a Veer, who was coming to Raw. I think he's still waiting for his debut to come to Raw.
But he
I
came
think,
before and then they released him.
yeah, he came and then he went. Yeah, so I think that's the challenge that you have, and also again, it comes down to characters and where they would fit within the roster. Because I think we're the days of the days of like the stereotypical Indian gimmicks are kind of out the window. So
Yeah.
let's
Are
say
they
like
though?
if
Like
like they were
like
saying, like
the
if Vince was still booking Gunze, he'd come out as a Nazi, for example, right? So they're always saying that you got like the Mexicals and things. I think those days are sort of kind
Yeah.
of out.
And I think it was wrestlers like Mustafa Ali that kind of broke the mold really and was like, no, why can't an Indian wrestler be like a hero and not be the evil heel, I mean the foreign heel. And for me that was refreshing.
Yeah.
He owned his culture, but he was like, look, we're gonna take it in a different direction now, which kind of sounded very progressive at the time.
Yeah, it did. It went great, and then he became a heel leader with his minions, right? That didn't
yeah,
go very well. But
not
yeah, I
not
think
to lack of effort. Like
yeah,
Mustafa
not to
Ali
lack of
didn't get there for easily.
yeah. He tried, and he's done really well now with the whole in Ali we trust, which is very like he's almost like a president, and he's got his kind of thing going, which is really really well. I think there's a lot of really successful people that are doing it on the indies, like Pakistan and like India. They do have huge audiences. Same with like Qatar.
Mm.
Qatar Pro Wrestling. They have a big market out there, and they all kind of have their own training academies going on. But I'm still yet to see someone that's broke through, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's the talent isn't there. I think the opportunities aren't really there. I don't think they've done very much in the performance center because they've had a lot of people come and go. Um, but also they're doomed for the beginning. Yeah, they're like the Bollywood boys who were um, Jinder Mahal, really talented wrestlers, did really
Yeah.
well in interviews, but they originally came in and they were always the whipping boys. So trying to like take them out after that, especially again, they get the typical Asian/Indian characters. It's really hard to come back from that.
Mm.
I
And
I don't think the professional wrestling business understands South Asian culture to a degree, how it operates in spaces like India and in the Western world, Britain and England. I don't think they get our vibe and culture, and I don't know how to use it and tell stories with it yet. I think
Yeah,
someone really needs to come in to show the attractive side of how fucking incredibly cool we are. Do you know what I mean? So like
no, you know,
they
I
just
think even though in other platforms we're only just getting there with things like Man Like Moby, and when that came out, like, right, this
yeah,
actually
exactly. Yeah.
they're telling good stories, but they're obviously from like a Pakistani Muslim background, but it's not like thrown in your face like that's not the only story. So even like Netflix doesn't have very many like South Asian culture shows, and even the ones that are, they're still rare. Like Master of None was great, but it's not really showing a light on our heritage. You got Never Have I Ever and things like that, but I haven't watched those, so I can't really comment. But it's slowly happening in other forms, and I think once that's a bit more prominent.
yeah,
Let's be real, WWE is going to go where the money goes. If something happens in India or culture and there's money there, they'll tap into the market.
that's what's up, man. So is there someone that's under the radar at the moment who you think we should look out for in terms of
But
wrestlers?
in that space, not really, not that I know of. In terms of there's like Malik, who's a British wrestler. He's good and he's got a really good character that doesn't align with him being a typical Asian guy. He's got a really good gimmick. He's got a really good character, good style. He wrestled for Progress. Like he's a really really good wrestler. There's a girl called Nisa, who's like the first British Pakistani female wrestler, and she's
Wow.
doing really well. She's got her character. She comes out in like Asian wear as well. So it's getting there. And I think in those instances that it's going to be the character that gets over, and Malik's a brilliant wrestler, but in terms of some of the other ones, the character might get over, but it's all going to go down the pan when the wrestling hits because I think they're kind of getting over on their characters and the novelty of them being like British Asian, British Pakistani, as opposed to them being great wrestlers. Where Malik is a good wrestler, so is he going to get is he going to get drowned in the sea of the other good wrestlers in the UK? Time will tell.
Right. Could you ever see yourself like leading like a stable of Indian wrestlers?
Nah, bro, like too much work, man. I'm happy doing kind of what I'm doing at my level. I don't see myself like traveling up and down the country for a few quid, then breaking my body. So, but I think that's the thing. Like, if it was me and I went down the hill route, I don't think I would lean too much in the South Asian sphere myself. I'd want to do something a little bit different.
Mm.
But I mean, that's the thing. I think, yeah, I couldn't see myself going down the typical Asian route. But then you got people like RJ Singh, who is an Indian wrestler, King of the Singh, and he does the ethnic submission. He calls it the camel clutch.
Yeah.
But bro's from like Trinidad,
Oh
so
wow.
you got the other side where he's playing like an Indian guy, and his name's Singh, and but he's not from that era. But
Well, hold on.
gets involved.
But
We're
Jinder
saying
was from Canada.
I'm a sing. Wait, there's a Brer out here who's not a sing being a sing.
There
Uh,
you go.
Hey man, hey, whoever you are, bruv, stop, please. Just stop. I understand, but just like no, look at me like on the camera. Just stop. Like, change the gimmick. Just change it. Like it'll come back.
On the plus side, he's a great wrestler. He's been around for a long time, and he's got the DDT over as a finisher, which I
Yeah.
mean, he's
Cool, but drop
protected
the
it. He's done
sing,
really
bruv.
well.
What's wrong with a Trini name? What's wrong with Trini, bruv?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. No, I could see it, man. I could see why. Because there's a lot of Indians in Trinidad and some of the Caribbean countries. So you could definitely get the influence, man. But I mean, I'm looking at it from the perspective of like the early days of seeing like one or two black wrestlers, and it was just how they affected the kids, the next generation, watching them on the big screen, and realizing that the representation is bigger than they think it is, you know. Like there's going to be a whole generation that's going to be looking at Jinder Mahal as like that's the first, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
Yes.
Same with Ali. Ali did a lot. Like he's got a huge following. Because they'll kind of follow him online in terms of what he's doing. But he's got a huge following because he was like American. He talked like an American. He was American. He reps Chicago, but he reps to like his Pakistani background. And you got to see like when he did when they went to like Crown Jewel or whichever or Saudi ones. He was there during Ramadan and he went to do like Umrah. How many people get to see that? It's a shame they don't put that on TV, but
I remember
there's
it was on
obviously a lot
YouTube.
of
I
people.
remember it. I
Yeah,
remember.
exactly.
Yeah, I
Great
remember.
little thing. So refreshing. Great for people to understand that culture as well, and how important it is. And he's a lovely guy as well. He's a great example of that culture. He obviously goes and he's there with his two kids and his wife who wears a hijab and stuff. So it's very like a great example. But also, yeah, you know, you've got kids going, you know, if he can do it, I can do it.
Absolutely, man. Zaheer, I want to thank you so much for being an amazing guest on the show. Like, would you mind like promoting the video, the song one more time and let the people know where they can get hold of it?
Yeah, of course. Firstly, thank you guys so much for having me. I've had a lot of fun, man. Time has flown by. Yeah, I'm at Zaheer Music pretty much everywhere. ZAHWER Music. Superstars is on YouTube. It's getting a lot of traction on Instagram. So if you follow me, you'll see parts of the video. There's a lot of great punchlines on there, wrestling. So if you're a wrestling fan and you like hip hop, this song right up your alley. Yeah, Zaheer Music. And thank you, the Mega Powers, for having me on again.
Amazing, man. Let's get the handshake ready, bro. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much for coming on, man.
Much appreciated, man. Wicked.
Powers.
Haha. Till
There you
next
go. Peace.
guys.
Salute.
Beautiful. Peace.
Hello, wrestling fans. This is DJ Magic J with Scanduce the Hip Hop Original, and we are the Mega Powers TV.
And what we're giving you is exclusive pro wrestling content. You get interviews, you get podcasts, and a whole bunch of other things.
So just remember, peoples, like, comment, share, subscribe to your friends, your family, your enemies, and your loved ones. So just remember, we are the Mega Powers Podcast TV, and we do everything else wrestling. The Mega Powers.
Mega Powers,